My name is Julian Woloch. I'm the author of Ghetto, a graphic novel illustrated by Claudia Allering. The book tells the story of my late friend Benjamin Melendez. Benji moved to New York with his family when he was a kid. They left Puerto Rico in the hope for a better life. But life was tough, especially in the Bronx. Back in the 1960s, New York was a dangerous place. There were gangs everywhere. If you didn't belong to a gang, you had no protection. So Benji first joined a gang and then founded his own, the Ghetto Brothers.
Originally, the Ghetto Brothers, it was founded in 1967. But originally, the Ghetto Brothers was not a club. It was originally my brothers. We moved from the Greenwich Village at 40th Street after the assassination of Kennedy, moved up to the South Bronx. At that time, it was never called the inner city. It was called the ghetto. So originally, we called ourselves the Ghetto Brothers, and that was originally my brothers. Only till later, it festered to what it became the Ghetto Brothers organization. The gang first, and then the organization. Well, the gang was territorial. We defended our turf against other gangs. And then there were some times that we go to their turf and start trouble over there. We were a sort of like a Hell's Angels type, you know? You cross our path, you was in big trouble, you know? And we had a lot of fun, but most of the time, our deal was to try to get as many members and make it as big as possible. And we wanted to look mean and act mean and have the jackets and dirty jackets with chains and knives on the side, hair all like this. All of that was to terrify the public.
But then things changed. The Ghetto Brothers became activists. They tried to improve things in the community. The one person who influenced this change was a Black Panther activist, Joseph Mumpa.
In 1971, I was involved with a group of students from different high schools from around the city who were coming together. Now, most of these students were involved with different organizations, the Young Lords, Black Panthers, certain other nationalist organizations. And what came about was we were talking about the situation with the gangs. Because at that time, it was really getting, how do I say, off the hook. And what we were concerned about was gangs were killing other gang members. And what we felt we had to address was the issue of just the killing of our youth within our own community. Even and like I say, we were youth. So when we approached the gangs, and the first gang that we approached was literally the Ghetto Brothers. And we went to their clubhouse, and that was a sight for me. I had never been in a gang clubhouse, and what I mean by that is it was, how do I say this? I remember like somebody hanging upside down. I remember people drinking 40. I remember somebody throwing knives against a wall. I remember just this whole kind of like, when you first step in, it was like this kind of chaos. But as we approached and spoke with Benji, Benji was very calm. And how do I say? It was almost surreal. He was just kind of calm, and you know, we're speaking, but I'm still looking behind my back because I don't really trust the situation I'm in. You know, I don't know what's going to happen, so it's like that. So I was leery. But as we spoke to him in terms of the need for them to stop killing each other, and that the point we was really trying to make was that that wasn't their real enemy. Their enemy was the people that were oppressing their community. The enemy was the drug dealers. The enemy was police who you know, brutalized our people. Those were the true enemies. And they were spending all this time and energy fighting who? So that's what we talked about in terms of the fact that they needed to stop killing each other. And Benji, I must say, was receptive to the message. He, you know, amongst all that chaos and all that, he was like nodding his head and asked certain questions, and, you know, and we responded to him. And then after that meeting, you know, Benji and I became pretty close, and the dialogue continued in terms of what to do for the community.
The Ghetto Brothers changed. The biggest change was that they got rid of the warlord and introduced a new role, the peacemaker. Benjamin Black Benji Cornell fulfilled this role. In December 1971, Black Benji was killed.
During the afternoon, a scout from the Ghetto Brothers came in and said, Benji, Yellow Benji, there are 3 gangs coming from Southern Boulevard. The Mongols, the Black Space, 70 Motors. They're on their way coming in this direction, and they're beating up people along the way. I turned to Benji, and I said, Benji, your job is cut out for you. This is your job. Get me the presidents, the vice president, and warlords, so we could broker a peace. He took around 7 or 8 Ghetto Brothers with him. When he went over there, he never came back. And the natural reaction is anger. I understand that. I understand the dynamics of anger. Charlie was mobilizing the ghetto for war. I said, this is not the time for war. We lost a brother. We lost a brother, and he went on for peace. This is the opportunity now to bring the gangs together for the biggest peace treaty, because it would have been chronicled in the history of the Bronx as the bloodiest gang wars in the history of the Bronx, and it would have filtered to the other boroughs. Now this is the time. This is the dream come true. Black Benji died for the right cause. He gave the ultimate sacrifice. Now, let's get all the gangs together and broker a peace treaty. And you know what? You know what's interesting? When you're angry, you're blind. And when a person's blind, they only see evil. Take a deep breath, I used to tell the ghetto brothers. Relax. Relax, calm yourself. We can't afford to lose no more brothers. I don't want martyrs. I want people who are alive, who are creative, who can come up with ideas to improve the environment in our community. I don't need people to die. I need people alive. That was the essence of the Ghetto Brothers. No more death. It's about time that we start being creative and do something about our community, our environment, our children, our buildings, everything. This is the time to do it.
This gathering became known as the Hoe Avenue Peace Meeting.
In the 60s, there was a great division between blacks and Hispanics, and primarily blacks and Puerto Ricans. You know, there was animosity, there was fights, there was definitely not an appreciation of each other's culture. Right. Okay. Yet, because of the poverty, they all wound up in the same neighborhoods. Okay. Now the gangs, because the gangs are one of the vehicles that, in one sense, brought blacks and Puerto Ricans together, because there were very few gangs that were totally segregated, to my knowledge. Okay, right. So this process of integration between these two cultures began. After the truce, it became even broader, because the groundwork had been laid, and now, for example, a black guy could go out with a Puerto Rican girl and not necessarily get his behind beat, and vice versa. You know, Puerto Rican guy go out with a black girl and not get his behind beat. So that those type of relationships developed, and that artistically created a freedom also. Anytime you open it up, there's going to be, you know, things can happen, positive things can happen. So.
Thanks to the truce, a new culture developed in the South Bronx, later known as hip-hop.
You know, if it wasn't for the truce, if it wasn't for the fact that people stopped killing each other, if it wasn't for the fact that the hostilities, you know, decreased, and that people could flow freely from neighborhoods to neighborhoods, because before, remember, the problem was being territorial. But now you could go to another neighborhood, you could go to another borough, and you could speak, you could rap, you could entertain other people. So it wasn't just, it made the world larger. It wasn't just your gang. Now it became something that was much broader than that. It was, you know, it was above, beyond your gang. And if you notice in hip-hop, when hip-hop started, a lot of the guys were called crews. Okay, so it was somewhat like of a takeoff from the gang concept, and that's what they traveled with the security. They had their entourages. Even to this day, if you notice, hip-hop artists are known for these large entourages, and it's like a tradition which is carried on. And you know, people say, why they got to go with all these people? Well, you know, it was a tradition that happened. Part of it was for security reasons. Part of it was, you know, to do things. But that's really how it kind of, you know, came about. So if it wasn't for the truce or the peace, that's when things flourished. That's when breakdancing. That's when graffiti, all these mediums began to develop because of the fact that you didn't have to worry about walking through a block and people chasing you because of what colors you didn't wear or the colors you were wearing.
Ghetto Brother is a tale from gangs to hip-hop. It's about Puerto Rican migration to New York. It's one person's coming-of-age story. It's a piece of forgotten New York history. We have prepared a curriculum to help you dive deeper into the topics of this book. We hope you find it helpful and engaging. Feel free to contact us with any questions and comments. Thank you.
We are gonna take you higher. We're Ghetto Brothers.